Hey guys, it's Merlin here, and I just got out of seeing Need for Speed. Well, I'll start off by saying that it was better than I thought it was going to be. I think it's kind of funny how I've actually never played Need for Speed, but this is actually, I guess, technically a movie based on a video game, so it's a video game adaptation on film. Well, to be perfectly honest, if that is indeed the case, I'd imagine there's very little plot to the racing game. Sometimes they have a little something going on, but usually it's barely even worth mentioning. I don't know, honestly, if it's based on anything from the game, but that being said, I actually think this is ranked among probably one of the best video game adaptations. It honestly is. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's a masterpiece of film or just narrative storytelling by any means, but overall, though, it ranks up there with Mortal Kombat, I think. Honestly, I think that, technically speaking, this might in fact be the better movie. So, fun fact, I guess. I mean, hopefully we'll get some better video game adaptations in the movies at some point in the future. I know they're talking about a couple potentially good ones. I mean, there are so many video games out there with really good storylines. You think there's plenty to work with, but honestly, beyond the Mortal Kombat movie, I mean, the first one, and maybe a couple other ones, there really isn't much to speak of. But getting back to Need for Speed, the movie, going into this, I know that a lot of people were saying that it was basically a Fast and Furious ripoff, and based upon my limited knowledge of Fast and the Furious, I think that's probably a pretty accurate statement. I've only ever seen one Fast and Furious movie, so I don't really feel that jaded, and honestly, I like this a lot better than I think I saw Fast and Furious, which is the fourth one. And I mean, I was told that if you don't really have much knowledge of the story, we won't appreciate it as much, with Vin Diesel coming back and other characters returning, so that being said, I mean, I still didn't think it was that great. I actually enjoyed this movie a heck of a lot more than that one. So far, I'm sure I'm probably alone in this, or at least in a small camp. But really, I actually thought this was good. I don't know if it really deserves a sequel because the story wrapped up pretty well. But anyway, it basically follows this kid played Marshall, Tony Marshall, who is played by Aaron Paul, best known as Jesse from Breaking Bad, and he's kind of running his own little chop shop, his automobile repair industry with his friends. He's got like a little small business, and apparently it's not doing very well. He's backed up on his loans, trying to keep his business afloat, and he's basically partially involved in these underground, seedy, like illegal racing matches, and he's apparently really good. He's like a legend in that little subculture, and he's approached by this guy who apparently he doesn't like very much. This guy named Gino, who's the antagonist for the film, and he's he's pretty obviously evil. You can tell he's just a really, really terrible person, as the film shows. I mean, but you know right off the bat, it's clearly demonstrated by the way this guy's presented. He's bad, but he offers them a deal to basically help him build this car, which is unfinished, so that he can sell it, because he's basically kind of an I feel like he's probably a criminal, but he comes from high money, and he's basically an expensive car dealer. He just deals in really, really awesome cars, sells them to, I guess, other racers, people rich guys who race their cars for hobbies, or to actual car designers and automobile, businesses like Ford or something. It's never really 100% clear, but he's basically a high-class car dealer, and also another racer, and apparently they have this old rivalry. And bad blood comes out, because basically Dino, after offering him the help, it seems like he's kind of helping them by helping him get his business back together. But, there's kind of a challenge that's put forth. I mean, apparently he used to date his ex-girlfriend, and then eventually is possibly going to marry her. So there's a lot of rivalry, and basically it comes down to them racing again, saying, "Oh, you can't beat me," blah blah blah. Well, everybody knows that I race better than you. So they race, another illegal race, and I forget the kid's name. I think it's I forget the kid's name, but there's this kid who is basically one of Marshall's friends, who apparently has these visions about him becoming this awesome racer and winning this illegal like legendary race called the De Leon, which is hosted by Michael Keaton, who is apparently a former awesome racer in his own right, but is basically the big organizer of all these underground racing matches, or at least this big one. It's just a very high stakes one. And he goes along, and because he kind of runs his mouth, Dino says, hey, why don't you race? And they race, and it looks like, of course, Aaron Paul's going to win, but then Dino basically takes out his friend and blatantly rams into him, and this guy gets completely destroyed. You can tell he's going to die anyway. I mean, they hinted heavily in the trailer, and plus you can just tell he's the nicest guy ever. He's like the brother of, the lady that he used to date, that Dino's with. You can just tell that's the point in which this story is going, and he just gets killed, and Dino hides the fact that he was ever involved in this race, and so basically Tony Marshall gets framed for it and sent to prison for a couple years. Then basically they come back, and apparently he's organized with all his friends, and they decided, we're going to get him back for this. We're going to go across the country to get to the De Leon race, and we're going to basically take him out. We're going to not only race him, we're basically going to either, clear our own names and pin the murder on him, find the evidence. We're just going to get ultimate revenge against them, maybe even kill him. But we just know he's going to get to this race, and he's going to take him down there. And so basically most of the movie is actually, it's basically Tony Marshall and the love interest, who is basically this British expert on cars, also another car dealer that met him back in the day and provided this awesome new car for them. The one that actually they helped design build with Dino. And she goes with him basically to kind of oversee the interests of the individual who sold them the car. So it's basically him and her going across the country in this car to make it to the race. And they've only got like a day and a half to get there, or almost 2 days together. I think it's 44 hours is what they said. So you have a whole movie of racing before the actual race. It's kind of funny. And that's somehow going to be worked in. But it was actually a lot more impressive because, well, they have to, of course, obviously do a lot of speeding, and they have to cause a lot of property damage and put a lot of people's lives at risk. So the cops are after them. They're basically on the run from the cops. They're trying to hide from the cops. They have to pull up all these awesome stunts and massive tricks to have these massive shortcuts to escape the cops. And then Dino, after finding out that Tony Marshall's coming to get him, sets out a bounty, and apparently there's these really even shadier mercenaries within the underground racing circuit that go after him and try to kill him. So he's on a race from everybody, and eventually he gets there, and throughout the journey we kind of see a lot of little mini character development for his different friends and what they were doing while they were basically trying to find their lives and do something while the business was closed. And they're pretty much underdeveloped, but they're funny. I mean, they have some funny little lines, and they're all likable characters. And the only real character development really is basically Tony Marshall starts the movie off as being this closed-off guy, kind of the strong, silent type, has difficulty connecting with people besides his friends, and through his relationship with the girl, they kind of bond as they kind of go through this journey of trying to escape the cops, and they learn a little bit more about each other and why they're doing what they're doing. And it's not great character writing, but it's better than I expected it to be, and for the most part, the acting was actually pretty good. I was kind of worried the acting was going to be bad. I thought Michael Keaton was a treat. He just loved his role as being like this hoster of not only this illegal race, but apparently he's like one of the big news guys, big hosts of pretty much all information in the underground racing circuit. I mean, he's got his chat rooms, his forums, his video blogs online, which kind of begged a huge question throughout the movie. Like, all this information was being circulated through these channels and these websites and links, and I'm just thinking, I could kind of believe it's sort of secretive and none of the authorities would find out about it, but I don't know, it really wasn't that believable. You're like, I kind of feel like there's a lot of information that is really out there to be grabbed easily. Like, a lot of people should have been able to find out about this. I mean, I guess they could have encoded it somehow. They could talk in code. They could, filter the data somehow. There were a lot of little plot holes in the movie like that. I mean, like, for instance, Dino never destroyed the car after hiding it, trying to clear his name, say that he didn't kill the kid. But he obviously left not only the car undestroyed, not only leaving the car undestroyed, which they do acknowledge, but still doesn't really make sense. And then he leaves like the file for the bill when he purchased the vehicle along with the other ones in the race, and never destroyed the file. So like his wife finds out about it. I mean, like, okay, so you're just leaving that in your computer unprotected, just open, easily found, easily labeled too, with the date and everything. I mean, okay. And then there were like little instances where, how did the mercenaries track them down in the middle of the New Mexico desert? How do they know about that? And little things like that. Or how did Aaron Paul and his friends concoct this grand scheme, you know, in 2 years while he was in prison? I mean, you do know they record all those different conversations you have. Once again, they could encode it. I know that some mobsters do kind of run their businesses in jail, but I don't really think they could do anything that intricate. You know, I don't know. I thought that was a bit iffy. There were a lot of little plot holes like that, but they weren't too distracting. Like, the film is very fast-paced, obviously. I kind of wish it had slowed down because I did like the setup for the characters and their backstories and their ultimate motivations. I thought that there was actually some legitimately good story there. And I thought that it really did allow Aaron Paul a chance to shine. He's breaking away from his role as Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad. Is this a great role? Is it a really well-written role? I mean, and was he really acting the best he could? I don't think so, but he proved that he could do something different. And he did have, I think he was actually enjoying the role. I think everybody in this movie was enjoying it. I liked the performances. There were a lot of funny moments, some good little humor. A lot of the actors had some real good chemistry. Michael Keaton was a treat, of course. I thought the bad guy actually was pretty good. And the movie was just shot in such a way they pulled off a lot of these really cool stunts. You know, I don't really know if the 3D, I saw it in 3D. I didn't think it was implemented very well. To be honest, that was kind of a negative. I wouldn't recommend seeing it in 3D if you haven't. I mean, it's not really worth it. You know, the plot is pretty by the numbers. It's bringing a lot of cliches to the table, but they kind of pull off some twists. I mean, I thought that the 2 hours and 10-minute runtime was going to be way too long, but I really wasn't that bored by it. I was pretty excited. I was invested in the story. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen, but there are characters you can sort of get behind. The biggest problem I have with the movie, though, and this just might be kind of going along with the type of movie that it is, it's just that they're a bunch of underground street racers. They all do bad things. Like, they cause property damage, they get people hurt, they get police officers hurt. I'm not entirely sure that it's not impossible that people died in these street races. And they never acknowledge any real problem with this at all. Like, not at all. And that's the one big problem that kind of prevents some of these characters from being 100% likable, because even the good guys are still engaging in activity that's pretty, you know, dangerous and honestly wrong. I mean, you know, to an extent, everybody deserved to go to jail, and I guess everybody sort of does, so the filmmakers didn't say, oh, you know, this is completely acknowledged. I mean, it is for ultimately escapism, for thrills of racing, but I just feel like there is one moment where they, like, just, I mean, at the beginning of the movie, there is a race they're involved in where they try to clear the streets, and they have this system where they try to make sure that there's as little traffic as possible. And I understand that in the main plot of the movie, he has to get to this race to, you know, avenge his friend in this weird code of honor thing among the racers. But honestly, if they had just found that file and found the car, they could have sent this guy to jail, and he would have gotten his... He would have gotten even completely. He would have gotten his vengeance, and it would have saved a lot more time. Perhaps less thrilling, but, I mean, I don't know. It just seemed completely ridiculous when you really thought about it logically. Well, that's really all I got to say about it. Honestly, I thought that if you're an enthusiast for racing or just cars, you'll probably get some more understanding out of it. You'll probably enjoy it more than the average viewer. But really, this movie was a lot better than I expected it to be. If you go into the mentality, you just want to see some cool action, get some humor, just have some fun, I think you'll enjoy it. I'd probably give it like about a 3 out of 5 stars, maybe in the B- kind of range. It's like a 6 out of 10. It's above mediocre. There's still a lot of silly things. I don't know if I'm going to really go out and watch it again, but, you know, if you want to just have some fun thrills, it's a good way to just spend 2 hours, honestly. Especially if you're into racing and cars and you like the Fast and the Furious, I think you'll enjoy this a lot. Alright guys, that's all I really have to say about Need for Speed. Check it out, I guess. Merlin out. Peace.